Hey everybody, welcome back to our neck of the woods. So in today's video, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go around the house and see how all of our products are holding up and give you guys kind of an update. So is there anything that we shouldn't have done? Is there anything that's failing? Is there anything that's working really well? And just to kind of give you guys an all over update as we're coming up on 2 years on the house build, and we wanna see how everything's working. So hang tight and let's go through everything. All right, so update number one real quick. I want to head out to the electrical panel. I have not checked on our mouse situation since I buried all of that rodent repellent spray foam down in the hole. And I don't know if that mouse ever did make his way out or if he's dead. So I want to take the panel apart real quick, take a look inside, and let's just see what's going on. All right, looks good. I'm pretty sure he's dead in the pipe. It's been at least a month or so. There's no chew marks coming out of here. All the foam still looks the same, and it doesn't look like any family members have tried to make their way back up in, because this foam that kind of stuck out of that little hole, there is no chew marks or anything. So option number, or checking on upgrade thing number one, it looks like we did good, at least with this part. All right, so number two, kind of a failure, not really gonna hurt anything as far as I know, but we obviously do not have the ceiling on yet, and as you can see, we have tons of birds droppings now all over our deck. So I don't know if it's a real failure yet, because I don't know if those bird droppings are actually like staining the deck or not, and we still want to put our own stain on this deck so we can match this door a little better. So it'll probably take it away. We'll wash it up or scrub all the bird poop off, but as for right now, kind of a failure. It's kind of unsightly, but we'll see in the future what actually happens, and hopefully it doesn't get worse until we actually get our money and we actually can get the internal ceiling on here, so birds have nothing to sit on and then actually put their droppings on. All right, kind of a failure number three. This is a big one. The Genstone doesn't look to be doing too well. So what I mean by that is I put this Genstone on tight as a drum. Everything was very well put together and it seemed to be going okay. And now after almost a year on here, we are having some ginormous gaps open up. In fact, some of the gaps are so bad in between like some corners of panels. Like check this one out right here. That gap is so bad in there. I don't know if you can see it, but right there is the zip panel. I'm trying to see if you can see that hole. Right there, there's a hole. So is that going to affect with water coming down here? I mean, this obviously cascades off. This overhangs this, so it'll drip on down. Water can obviously get in there, and if it does get in there, it's going to drip in there. Now, will it actually go inward, or will it just drop straight down to here and actually fall off? I don't know, but having the size of a pen easily that can sit in there and actually see my zip paneling, that's kind of a big problem. Over time, I'm sure that zip can end up failing and not be so waterproof. Again, that's the size of like the tip of my pinky, so a decent sized bug can get in there and start making its way back, even though these are flat against the wall. I really don't understand how the foam panels can be shrinking. This whole wall does hit the morning sun that is east directly that way. So if it gets wet and then the sun hits it, and I don't know, is there expanding and contracting going on? But I need to call Genstone and ask them, hey, what's your warranty process? What is the possibility of your panels having shrinkage? If they're like, oh, like 5% is fine, that's normal, we know that, then I just don't know. I'm confident with this stuff being against like the ICF wall, especially with the rubber wall here. I'm fine with if there was a little bit of a water leak, the water's just going to hit on the backside of this, leak on down, and I really don't think the water is going to deteriorate the rubber wall, and I don't think it's going to deteriorate the back of the foam paneling and rot. It's not organic. Nothing's really going to happen to either of them, but the parts on where the zip paneling are, which is probably from here down to about here, can all get a lot more destroyed, even though, well, for example, this zip paneling, for example, has been sitting outside for at least a year or more, and you can see that water hits it all the time, and it's not flaking off, it's not chipping off or anything. So, and that's actually sitting on the ground. So the fact that the zip is lasting that well as like a floor mat, you can only imagine it's going to be a little bit better hanging up on a wall where it's vertical. It has a lot better chance of drying out, is what I'm saying. So I don't know. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not happy about that. So if you guys are looking into Genstone, might want to take a second thought about that, or research that if maybe it's the black that is the problem and not the lighter colors that have that expanding and contracting because of the color, because it's not absorbing heat as much. Then I don't know, something that you got to look into. But yeah, not happy about that. But let's go on and see if we can figure out product number 4 on the house and how it's holding up. All right, so product number 4, this isn't really a product per se, but we're still having the chemical guys come out here and spray the house down for carpenter ants. Carpenter ants are already back. We're in springtime. They're just crazy on the inside of the RV, and I actually just stepped on one and killed it on the outside of here. So whatever poison they were using is not working for carpenter ants. And the sad thing is down around like the garage door, I see more daddy longlegs killed than anything. And the daddy longlegs, I've actually see them kill and eat carpenter ants. So we're killing the predators of the carpenter ants, but we're not actually killing the carpenter ants. So I emailed the company and said, you guys got to have a better product, or your product's too watered down or something, because the carpenter ants just do not care about your product. And he was just here maybe 5-6 days ago, sprayed the entire outside of the house, the RV, and I made sure he put any spray down along anything that actually like can touch the ground. So all of the poles that run vertically, the stairs, and obviously he went all the way around the perimeter of the house, and it's just not working for carpenter ants. So they have actually eaten through the Genstone and tried to make their way into the house. So that's another fail on Genstone, that bugs don't care about it. They'll just eat right through it and tunnel through. So we may have a million nests going through the back of that Genstone with carpenter ants, and I'm not going to know it unless I take one off. And I just have to keep an eye on the inside of the garage that they're not making their way back in. I've siliconed where I needed to. The chemical spray has maybe worked or not, at least last springtime or fall when I saw them there and tried to take care of them. So one of you guys had mentioned that I can get that actual spray myself, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper. I think I'm paying about $62 a month for them to come out here and spray, or not a month. They only spray 4 times a year, but it's costing me $62 a month for like a year's subscription to them. So if that is way overkill, tell me what that poison is again. If I can get a gallon or 5-gallon bucket on Amazon and just do it myself and not spend $62 a month. So let me know what that is, and if I should just kick that company out, because what they're doing clearly isn't working, which my biggest complaint is the carpenter ants. All right, so product number 5, whatever we're on, actually the rubber wall. So obviously you're not supposed to leave your rubber wall exposed as long as we have. It seems to be holding up quite well, but if you notice all of those bumps on the wall, like my wall's almost like got cancer or something, something's going on with the rubber wall, that it's like bubbling off and forming these huge bubbles, because those were not there before. And one of the negatives with rubber wall is when you put it on a product or put it against a wall, it does very, very, very good at repelling water. Water hits it, it rushes off, it dries. There's absolutely no problem with rubber wall with water coming at it in this direction. The failure with rubber wall is if water comes from the inside out. It will actually push the rubber wall off of the surface. So I don't know how water can get behind this wall unless it was just the concrete takes, you know, several years to dissipate its water or its moisture. So it's kind of dissipating out through the foam and then getting on the backside of the rubber wall and pushing it out. Or if maybe there's a small leak up in there, which is kind of hard to believe because some of these panels or some of these spots, for example, like right here again, there's no water leaking up in here. It's only right here. So water would have had to have drained down to push out the rubber wall product, like here where you can see all these bumps. And I mean, it's happening absolutely everywhere. This entire wall is covered, maybe not so much on the front side over here. So maybe it is a water issue since we've got a bigger overhang or a shorter overhang on this front side here, because there really is no bubbling at all on the front side. It seems to only be happening on this south side here, which of course is going to see the most sun. So maybe with the southern sun hitting the wall, it's pulling the moisture out because it's drying it, because you get so much more heat on this side. So as it heats through the rubber wall, heats through the foam and hits the concrete, it's pulling the moisture out of the concrete, and then it's just bubbling the backside of the rubber wall. I don't know. We might actually have to cut one open and see if just water profusely leaks out, but it doesn't seem to be that way. As I'm pushing on it, I'm not hearing any squishiness or anything, so I don't think there's water behind there. It may just be a water vapor again, as I'm thinking, as it's diffusing out through the concrete. But if you look over here again on this side, which is the west wall, which does see a lot of sunlight because the setting sun hits this every night. We don't have the big bubbling, but I guess we do have some small bubbling, like right in here. But again, that doesn't feel watery, so I'm not exactly sure. I think it's just maybe a water vapor. But is that a failure of rubber wall? Not really. It's probably just a fault with me having it exposed for so long. I mean, we're coming up on maybe over a year now, and you're only supposed to have the rubber wall like exposed for maybe like 6 months maximum. But to go more than a year right now, it does seem to be doing a really good job still. I'm very impressed with the product. You just need to make sure that when you're spraying it on a product, even if it's just a regular concrete wall for your basement foundation, if you didn't do ICF, you need to make sure that you are spraying it on a really dry product and your concrete is somewhat dry, or else it's just going to push off and eventually fail one day. But while we're at it, why don't we test out this massive bubble up here, and let's actually see if there is any water in here. Yeah, see, it feels very hollow. Yeah. Oh no, there is moisture. Look at that. Look at the bubbling. So this might have been a failure where water had gotten behind in here and actually pushed it out. So that is actually what's going on. So it's not a tremendous amount of water. That was just a tiny little bit of water vapor that's pushing out here, just a little bit of bubbles there. But yeah, I think we better, sooner rather than later, we better get the siding on here, and that way if it's not coming through the concrete or anything like that, and if it's coming from up higher and leaking down at any one point, we need to go ahead and get this protected. But a little bit of water like that, or moisture, I don't think is gonna really hurt the back of the foam. And all we're doing is we put this on the wall just to protect the foam. It's not really doing any major water protection since the foam really doesn't need it, and siding is going to be up there anyway. So it's not any worse than a typical house putting on the woven Tyvek, where water and air are going to go right through that stuff anyway, and houses haven't fallen apart really too often with the woven Tyvek. So that seems to be working, that we know of at least. All right, hopefully this is not a failure and we're actually on to something positive. But I have not been up in the attic since the spray foam guys actually did their closed cell spray foam. In fact, I haven't even touched the closed cell spray foam yet. So it is going to be interesting to see just how much difference it is to do open cell in the garage where the walls were done in open cell, and it was very, very lightweight, I guess you can call it. I mean, with open cell spray foam, you can literally just push your finger right through it. It has absolutely no structural rigidity at all. It falls apart very easily. It is just a decent product for our value, but that's about all it is. And then if we go to can foam, it's hard. My finger can push it in a little bit, but it's definitely more on the closed cell side. So interesting to see the big difference between a can spray foam and a more water-based open cell. But now, as we finally see our closed cell spray foam job done, that we had done at least a month ago. As you can see, they spray foamed all along the bottom there to lock the drywall into the drywall going up. All of the up and down kind of furring strips, or if you just want to call these studs for these 2x4s turned sideways. They sprayed it up on the woven Tyvek here, so which is going to hold back our blown-in cellulose that's on this side so it doesn't fall off. But yeah, there is definitely a difference. I can still push my finger and dent it a little bit, but I would say as far as hardness, this is definitely probably a good 20% harder than the canned spray foam. It is hard as a rock. So I can see where closed cell spray foam comes in, where they actually say it's structurally sound. I mean, we have over 4 inches sprayed in here. I don't have a tester, but the spray foam guy who was doing it, he did set a test gauge to about 4 inches. So he was pushing in, and we've got 4 inches in between the cavities. But where the studs are, he's obviously sprayed a little bit more because you can see how kind of bulged out they are in some spots. So we probably got 4 inches along each piece of wood, which is only going to help with our value because you got 4 inches there plus 1.5 inches plus the 5/8 drywall. So that's probably a decent R value there. But holy crap. Again, this is my first time being up here in over a month since they sprayed it, and God dang, is that stuff rock solid. That is crazy. It almost makes me want to go back to thinking maybe we should do closed cell on the decking here. I did not see any expansion or drywall movement or anything, bowing on the inside, on the other side of that wall, which if you guys remember, I was afraid to do closed cell down on here because any closed cell that gets underneath of the trusses here, I was afraid that it would try to expand up and push on the 2x4, but then push down on the drywall there, and then we'd have all this like rippling effect, which I still kind of am afraid of that. And they did kind of mention that that may be a warning for me since they know their product a lot more than me. So we'll probably still do the closed cell or the blown in cellulose. But man, to have such an R value at like an R7 and to be that structurally sound, that is insane. And then one more time, just to go back to a little bit more can spray foam. I've seen this one guy get a lot of heat on the internet where he'll do this to wiring and not actually put those hats there. And people are like, oh my God, this guy's an idiot. Yeah, I'm an electrician. Way to make my job 1,000 times easier in the future. I'm going to charge so much for a customer because people are stupid and they do that. You guys are absolutely nuts if you think that this is a problem. Yes, this stuff is hard, but this is nowhere near like the closed cell spray foam over there. This stuff literally just falls apart with the flick of a finger. So if you ever had to do electrical work and someone out there is going to complain or tell you that I got to charge, you know, $200 more an hour because I got to take care of all of that, it will literally take you 5 seconds to rip that off to get to your electrical wiring. It is absolutely no problem at all to rip off can spray foam. Even though, as you just saw me pound on it, it is hard, but it is absolutely nowhere near the same as closed cell. You would literally have to take a hammer and chisel to get this stuff off as opposed to the can spray foam. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It definitely helps with your R value to seal up your penetration points like that. And if need be in the future, it is not that big of a deal to fix. And I can definitely tell you guys that it is working. It feels very hot up in here. I would say it's at least maybe 80, 85 up in here, and it's probably only 50 something outside. So just like the reversal of winter time where we were trying to keep the house warm, well, now we're gonna be keeping the house cold because the attic is very, very hot. And for an example, in the garage here, it's 63. So there's definitely a good 20-degree difference or so in the garage versus the attic. So the drywall may not be insulation, but it is most definitely working to keep everything cool. And it's 67 in the house. So the house is obviously warmer because we don't have insulation, as opposed to the garage is 100% sealed and done. But it definitely feels better in here than it does up in the attic. So hopefully we can get the plumber out here soon, because we have got to get these freaking vent pipes up through the ceiling so that I can connect them all together, get the vents out of the attic, and that way I can freaking blow in the closed cellulose, and then we can have the attic finally done. And again, we're gonna be keeping the heat out of the house. So still have not been able to get a hold of the plumber to come over and give me a quote and take a look at everything. And again, he's a friend of a friend, so it should be easy to have someone come over and do that instead of a big company. But again, everyone's busy right now, and I don't know if, you know, somebody wants to flake out or just not come, you know, no call, no show, which we've seen 100 times before already. But hopefully that gets done soon, because today it is April 22nd, and I bought my car on March 14th. I just now today got my money from the sale of the AMG. So they needed to take my check from my bank for the Camaro. They needed to obviously cash it, which took a few days. They needed to then send a check to my bank to pay off the AMG. That took a few days. The title has to go from my bank to the dealership, and then they just kept dragging their feet and dragging their feet and dragging their feet. So again, we're looking at over a month. I think that's like 36 days or something. And I finally just now freaking got my check to be sent down from Michigan and to give me my money. So now, after a month and a half or however many days that is, whatever, we finally have money that we can start doing stuff on the house. So if the plumber comes over, I have money to pay him. We can start doing the attic ventilation. I can purchase the $2,000 or more of closed cellulose that I'll actually need to put in the attic. I can purchase that now. We have money that we can purchase all of the paint, so we can paint the exterior of the house, and we can start getting our siding on there, and I can go buy nails and stuff. So finally things can start to happen. The weather's still not cooperating. In fact, I just woke up a little bit ago. I worked last night because yesterday was crappy, and then today has been this beautiful day, no rain, decent temperature, and the sun's out. But then tomorrow it's gonna freaking rain again. So it's like every day that I work, the next day is beautiful, and I'm sleeping all day. So we need like a good 4 or 5 days in a row that are beautiful, that I can get a lift, I can get all the siding on, we can get it painted, and then we need to make sure that the nighttime isn't too cold and the paint has a reaction or anything. Because actually last winter we did have a reaction with our Sherwin-Williams paint that I was very surprised about. Here's a picture right here. I'm not exactly sure what that failure is. The paint guy said it was something about a bleed through reaction, but it's very unsightly, as you saw on camera there. But it only lasted for about 24 hours. The next day, when the temperature heated up a little bit from freezing at night, that white mist went away. It was able to go away if you washed it off, but I'm not exactly sure why it happened to begin with. I'm not exactly sure why it came back a second time. So there were 2 night times or day times where all of the black paint turned white. Very disconcerting. It scared me. I was afraid I was gonna have to like wash the whole house and repaint. But again, it only happened 2 times. We're coming up on 1 year that the paint's been applied. So hopefully we never see it again. But if any expert painters out there want to tell me what that bleed through white process was, Is there anything that I need to be concerned about? And is it ever going to come back once the paint cures, let's say after a full year? But yeah, chalk that one up as either a failure or something that we need to be concerned about. Is it a Sherwin-Williams product problem? Or was the LP Smart siding like moist or something when I put it on? Or maybe I applied it wrong. There's a chance that I could have applied it too thick or something, and that was the problem, as the chemicals were like bleeding out. And as for a last 7th or 8th failure, it's hard to pick up on camera. The only other thing that I got for you guys is our tongue and groove 3/4 inch OSB subfloor. I don't know if I want to blame it on the subfloor, or if I want to blame it on my install, or if I want to blame it on my liquid nails subfloor adhesive. But a ton of spots on the floor have started to fail. And what I mean by failure is we already knew that along all of the edges, even though we were supposed to have an exposure 1 and a 1-year guarantee, no sand guarantee, well, that didn't happen. Along every piece of 4x8, all of the edges have kind of like bowed up a little bit. So when we actually go to install our hardwoods, I'm probably just going to have to take a sander or planer and just run down every single spot real quick and take out those humps. Whatever Home Depot's guarantee is, that it's a 1-year no sand guarantee, I doubt I'm ever going to win that fight. They're going to do everything they can to say, no, it was installed wrong. Maybe the joints were too tight. It was exposed too long, even though we got under roof within under 1 year. But we're definitely going to have to sand it, which isn't a big deal. The planer goes real quick to just cut down like a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch along every edge. But the failure, the bigger one that I'm talking about, is the liquid nails. When you go to stand on the floor now, you can hear creaking and popping and stuff like that. So the subfloor adhesive is obviously let go. The 3/4 inch subfloor is creaking and moving on our floor joists, and I did use outside exposed ring shank nails. They're 2 3/4 of an inch long, but I think before we go ahead and install our hardwoods, what we're going to have to do is basically just start screwing the subfloor down to the floor joist. So anytime, again, I was doing this the other day, I kind of took care of most of them, but anytime I stepped and heard a pop or a creak, I just put screws all around that area and locked the subfloor back down to the floor joist. So I don't know, is that a failure again on me? Is that a failure on install? Is it just a really super cheap Home Depot subfloor and that was the problem? Or should we not have used nails to begin with? Should we have used screws from the get-go? I do know most people do that, and they make tools and guns that you can screw from a standing position. But again, that's our subfloor there. That's been sitting out for over a year now. It is definitely swollen to over 1 inch thick, and it is definitely waterlogged, but it still seems somewhat structurally sound. And that's been sitting on the ground for over a year. And I mean, I would still maybe use that as an internal subfloor. So it hasn't fallen apart and hasn't failed, but I think the liquid nails subfloor adhesive has separated, and we're gonna have to go through and screw everything down. So that's as much as I got for you guys today. That's the products that we've used. That's the ones that I can either see that are doing really well or have failed. There's nothing else to really talk about. Everything else seems to be doing fine, and we'll just have to take it one day at a time and keep on the build. So I just wanted to get something out to you guys today, show you what's working, what's not, and hopefully it helps you guys in your future builds and you think about everything that we've done. So until next time, hope you guys enjoy it. Hit us up on NeckofTheWoods 2020 on Instagram, or just comment down below if you got anything to say or help me out with the problems that I'm seeing. And we'll see you guys next time. So till then, take care.